We're talking about men don't like kids, and we're on the fifth and final ugly fact. People ruin their own lives. I'll say that again. People ruin their own lives. Now, the chapter has three takeaways, just like every other chapter in the book. Takeaway number one is people play a role in both the good and the bad things that happen to them. Number two, people ruin their own lives by rewarding negative behavior towards them. And number three, taking the chance to act in our own best interest is the key to creating the lives that we want for ourselves. All right. So people often blame other people for the bad things that happen in their lives. And then they often take responsibility or take credit for the good things that happen in their lives. Well, guess what? Even the bad things that happen to us, by and large, at the hands of other people, can be traced right back to our rewarding them for the behavior that they demonstrate. Okay? And so the goal of chapter 5 is to talk about how we can go about rewarding people for desired behaviors versus rewarding people for the behaviors that we don't want. So, one example of how we reward people for behavior that we don't want is when someone asks us to do something that is outside our capacity, our psychological or physical capacity, or even financial capacity. And instead of saying to them, no, I can't do that, we say, okay, and we do it, and we grumble and we're upset, but we do it anyway. And we thinking that maybe the grumbling and being upset might be a deterrent to them asking us again. But the reward of doing what they have asked us to do when we didn't want to do it is going to get them to ask us again. And so that is why in the popular culture, people will say, or you will say, see memes and signs that say, hey, no is a complete sentence. Because saying no when we mean no is how we teach people how to approach us. And so if I say yes when I mean no, then they're going to come back to me over and over again, expecting me to say yes when I mean no. But if I say no when I mean no, then people will understand that if I ask this person, and they may actually tell me no if it's not something that they can do. When I am in therapy with clients, I actually, and I'm trying to teach clients how to say no when they mean no, I teach them initially to exaggerate, to over exaggerate, and start everything with no. Start with no and then go from there. Because if it is difficult to say no to people, if it is difficult to appraise what we are capable of and operate within that consistently, then it is better to exaggerate on the other end when we're learning how to say no. And so you start with no. Everything is no. Can you do so and so? I can't. And then if you decide to find out more information about it later, or as things play out, you decide, hey, maybe I can take a small part, then you can go back and take a small part. But when you're learning to say no, it's best to exaggerate the no and then let things happen. Let things play out without your active participation to test and see if things really will fall apart if you're not involved. The reason we typically say yes when we mean no, or we give when we don't really have, is because we are hoping or in fact fearful that people will remove from us the love, care, and or attention that we seek. And so there's nothing like the gratitude and maybe the accolades that we can get, nothing more intoxicating than the gratitude and the accolades that we can get as a result of operating outside of our boundaries. However, if ultimately those accolades and appreciation make you feel, if the source of those accolades and appreciation have you miserable, overworked, exhausted, overwhelmed, stressed to the max, then go ahead and put the oxygen on yourself first and give yourself the gift of a break. Give yourself the gift of learning to say no, even though you want the intoxication of the things. However, a lot of people find themselves overwhelmed and stressed and outdone because very often they are saying yes when they mean to say no, because they're hoping to get a reward that actually never comes. So whether you're in the position where you're rewarding people for asking you to do things that you really are not capable of doing in terms of, capacity, whether it is to get a reward that you get or to get a reward that you don't get, you can still say no, and you can learn to say no, and you can learn to prioritize what you will say yes to. But don't think you're going to give reward to people for having you to where don't believe you're going to get reward from somebody, the reward of not asking you, if you are rewarding them with doing things that you are not capable or comfortably capable of doing. That's not going to happen.